The village party secretary shoved a martyr's certificate stamped in red and a heavy envelope into my hands. Elena, accept our condolences. Ethan was a hero, the pride of our village. I clenched the paper until my fingertips ached. Of course I knew Ethan was a hero. The hero deserted the battlefield and staged a grand escape so he could go back to the city and find his first love, making it look like he'd died honorably. He left only me, his wife of 1 year, to perform filial duties for him and take the blame in his stead. In my past life, I was a complete, utter fool. I waited widowed for him, served his parents, raised his younger siblings. I wasted 10 years of my youth. In the end, I was kicked out of the house when my successful younger brother got married. The reason given was that I, a widow, was bad luck. It wasn't until then that I learned Ethan hadn't died after all. He had long ago married and had children in the city, a happy family, and had become the young talent people spoke of. And I was the stain completely wiped away from his glorious life. Reborn into a second life, I returned to the turning point of fate. I stared at the condolence payment in my hand, 500 whole yuan. In the 70s, that sum was a fortune, enough for an ordinary family to lie flat for 10 years. My Ethan! I held, collapsing to the ground, crying with a ripping grief, breathless. I cried more genuinely than anyone, my acting was dialed all the way up. Mother-in-law Agatha and sister-in-law Lila leapt forward like starving wolves. Elena, you mustn't do anything foolish. Yes, sister-in-law, the dead can't be brought back to life. You have to take care of your health for the Zhou family. They flanked me, one on each side, pretending to support me, but their hands seemed to have eyes of their own, heading straight for the envelope in my lap. That greedy expression was exactly the same as in my previous life. I cried even harder, flopping on the ground and refusing to get up no matter how they pulled. My money. The money Ethan earned with his life. I cried, clutching the envelope like a mother hen protecting her chicks. Agatha and Lila's faces went as dark as the bottom of a pot. Elena, what do you mean? This money belonged to Ethan, so it should be for the Zhou family. Exactly. Sister-in-law, you're an outsider. What gives you the right to hold our family's money? The villagers began murmuring and whispering, pointing at us. The village party secretary couldn't stand it, he frowned and cleared his throat. This compensation is the state's for the widow of a martyr. By regulation, it belongs to Elena. Agatha's triangular eyes stabbed at the village party secretary like knives. She'll remarry sooner or later. Why should this money go to her? She's the wife our Zhou family bought with money. Hearing that, my sobs paused. True, I will remarry someday. But not after you drive me out. I will marry again in full glory of my own choosing. I lifted my tear-streaked face, looked around at the faces, some sympathetic, some there for the spectacle, braced my hand on the doorframe, and stood up, trembling. I will not remarry. Agatha paused, a flash of calculating satisfaction crossing her eyes. I knew it, Elena is sensible. I ignored her and continued, in a voice not loud but clear enough for everyone to hear, Ethan is a hero, I cannot let him die out. Everyone fell silent, waiting for me to continue. Fine, then let's play big. I drew a deep breath and dropped a heavyweight bomb. I've decided, we'll take a live-in son-in-law from the village, to carry on the Zhou family line for us. My words hit like a boulder thrown into a compound. The whole courtyard erupted in an instant. Take a live-in son-in-law? Is Elena crazy? Cloaking herself in the martyr's name and already hunting for a man? The nerve! Her husband's barely cold. My mother-in-law Agatha was the first to react, like an enraged lioness lunging at me. You shameless hussy! My son just died and you're already thinking of taking some random man. Her palm rose high, about to slap me across the face. I didn't flinch. I only said softly, go on, hit me. Try touching a single one of my fingers. I'll march straight to the County Women's Federation with the Martyr's Widow card and complain that my in-laws tormented me, forcing me to hand over the death benefits. Guess whether Ethan's halo of heroism will still hold up. Agatha's hand froze midair, her face shifting between green and white like a paint palette. Lila screamed from the side, "How dare you? You killed my brother and now you want to ruin our family's reputation." I sneered, turned to the village party secretary, and began my performance. "Secretary, you tell me what's fair. I'm a woman, I can't be expected to live out my life as a perpetual widow, can I? All this is for continuing the Zhou family line. What's wrong with that? The son I brought in as a son-in-law, his firstborn is surnamed Zhou and will carry on Ethan's line. Isn't that only natural?" My speech was reasonable and noble, a portrayal fit for the widow of the year. The village secretary was a straightforward man. He puffed on his dry tobacco, and after a long moment nodded. "What Elena says, makes sense. If she remarries, that pension, the honor of being a martyr's family, will have nothing to do with your Zhou family anymore. Now she's willing to bring someone into the house and leave an heir for the Zhou family, what else are you dissatisfied with?" Agatha trembled with rage, pointing at my nose as she cursed. "She just wants to use our Zhou name to openly keep a man." "I won't agree." "Absolutely not. Mom." I looked at her calmly. "Whether you agree or not doesn't matter. On the martyr's certificate, the widow's name is mine. This family, now I make the decisions." My tone was soft but edged with ice. It was probably the first time Agatha had seen me so domineering. For a moment she was cowed. She was used to my previous submissiveness, thinking I was still that soft pear she could squeeze at will. Everything's upside down. The world is turned upside down. She plopped down on the floor and launched into her usual routine, slapping her thigh and throwing a tantrum. "Oh God. My poor son. Open your eyes and look. Your wife is going to cheat on you." Lila joined in the wailing. The two of them sang and echoed each other so loudly that anyone who didn't know better would think I had dug up the Zhou family ancestral grave. I was tired and too lazy to perform for them anymore. I took the compensation money and the martyr certificate, turned back to the little room Ethan and I shared, and locked the door behind me. No matter how they screamed and cursed outside, I pretended not to hear. I leaned against the door and slowly slid down to the floor. Touching the cold ground, the despair from the night I was driven out of my home in my previous life surged up in my chest again. But this time it was different. I had money in my hand, and the mantle of being a martyr's family member as a talisman. "Ethan, Agatha, what you owe me, I'll collect back down to the last cent, with interest, bit by bit." The next day, I pasted a big red sheet of paper on the village bulletin board. Seeking a son-in-law. 3 requirements, simple and blunt. 1. Of upright character, registered in this village. 2. Agrees to be married into the family, the firstborn will carry the surname Zhou. 3. Physically healthy and able to work. The whole village was in an uproar. I, Elena, became everyone's after-dinner joke. But soon, someone came knocking at my door. The one who came calling was the village loafer, Ricky. He wore a leering grin, his beady green eyes sliding over me in a sticky, intrusive way. "Elena, little sister, what do you think of me? I'll take good care of you, make you comfortable, and get you to give the Zhou family a big healthy boy." My mother-in-law Agatha stood behind him, a conspiratorial smile playing at the corner of her mouth. Good heavens, this is the match she found for me. Ricky was lazy and thieving, known in the village as a scoundrel. She wanted me to jump into another pit of fire. The more I was tormented, the more justified she'd be in taking all the benefits. Looking at Ricky's rotten face, my stomach churned. "Get out," I spat coldly. The grin on Ricky's face froze. "Hey, you little wench, you shameless? You're lucky I set my sights on you." He reached out to grab me. I didn't move, I only pushed the brand new Martyr's family badge on my chest a little further forward. "Try touching me again and see." "Bullying a martyr's widow, what kind of crime is that? Want me to have the party branch secretary read it out for you?" Ricky froze, a flicker of apprehension crossing his eyes. Agatha, anxious behind him, gave him a shove. "What are you afraid of? What can a woman like her do to you?" Get it done today, she'll be yours. With someone backing him, Ricky grew bolder, rubbing his hands as he closed in on me. Girl, give in to me, I guarantee I'm better than that deadbeat husband of yours. I looked at him and suddenly laughed. I turned, grabbed a woodcutting axe from behind the door. Come on then. I held the axe up against my chest, the blade glinted with a cold, murderous light in the sun. I smiled in a way that made him feel a chill. My husband was a hero. Even as his widow, I won't disgrace him. If you dare lay a hand on me today, I'll carry out heaven's justice and split you down the middle, you calamity. Anyway, I'm a martyr's widow. Even if I kill a scumbag, at worst it'll be excessive self-defense. You? Want to gamble your rotten life on that? Ricky was stunned into silence by my threat. He looked at the axe in my hand, then at my face, which showed no fear, and his legs went to jelly. He was just a coward who picked on the weak and feared the strong. You madman. You're a lunatic. He spat, hurled an insult, and scrambled away on all fours. Agatha stamped her foot in fury. Elena. You jinx. Do you want to ruin our Zhou family or what? I hefted the axe and walked toward her step by step. She retreated in terror until she plopped down on the ground. I'll say it again, I decide this household now. If you dare bring those disreputable people here to me again, next time this axe won't necessarily be aimed at anyone in particular. I hurled the axe to the ground, it hit with a deafening clatter that made Agatha flinch and lie there for a long while before she could get up. That spectacle made my ferocious reputation in the village absolute. No one dared come calling with marriage proposals anymore. The in-laws quieted down for a few days, all waiting for the joke of me failing to find a match and finally having to compromise. I truly wasn't in a hurry to look. I was waiting. Waiting for the person truly worth betting on to appear. A few days later, by the little river at the east end of the village, I saw him. Victor. The man who had been discharged because of a leg injury, treated as a cripple by the whole village and shunned by everyone. He was sitting by the river, silently washing clothes, yet his back was as straight as a rifle. The afterglow of the setting sun rimed him in gold, like a solitary wolf crouched in wait, both forlorn and resolute. It's him. I walked straight toward Victor. He heard the footsteps, shot his head up, his gaze carrying the alertness peculiar to a soldier. It was a sharply defined face, wheat-colored skin, eyes as deep as a pool. He saw that it was me and his brow tightened almost imperceptibly. He had surely heard those rumors about me. Something, he said, his voice low and hoarse. I didn't beat around the bush, I got straight to the point. You should have heard about me taking a live-in son-in-law. He said nothing, only looked at me, his eyes examining. I choose you. I spoke the 3 words and clearly saw the wariness in his eyes shift to astonishment, then be covered by a layer of cold ridicule. Choose me? A cripple? He laughed self-mockingly. Elena, are you pitying me, or insulting me? Everyone in the village said he was ruined, that his life was over. He shut himself in his house like a wounded lone wolf, licking his wounds alone. I'm not pitying you, nor insulting you. I crouched down to look him in the eye, my expression serious. I'm proposing a deal. He raised an eyebrow, as if a little interested. I need a nominal husband to block those wolves in my in-laws' family and safeguard the compensation my man earned with his life. You need a home, a place where you can recover in peace and get back on your feet. I looked at his leg and said with conviction, your leg isn't ruined, it's just injured, tendons and bones that need proper care. I have money, I can buy you the best medicine. In my previous life, I knew that Victor's leg was later healed by an old rural Chinese physician who had been sent down. He not only returned to the army but, thanks to his outstanding military talent, rose steadily and became a pivotal figure in the military region. Only back then, the one standing beside him was that old Chinese doctor's granddaughter. As for me, I was still struggling to death in the Zhou family's mire. Victor fell silent, his eyes sharp as if trying to read some plot or trick on my face. I returned his gaze calmly. I have only one condition. After we marry, in name you'll be the one who marries into my family, but we'll live separate lives and not interfere with each other. When the time is right, you can leave whenever you want. As for the child, I didn't mention it. I knew he was proud at heart and wouldn't want his child to carry the Zhou surname. Why me? He finally asked. Because you were a soldier, you're an upright man. I stood up. I trust your character, you won't be a scoundrel like Ricky, coveting my money, and you certainly won't bully me. Of course, you can refuse. At worst I'll take the compensation and run off to a place where no one knows me, and I'll still live just fine. I finished speaking and turned to leave, giving him no pressure. I knew he would agree. For someone who had plunged to the bottom and tasted the chill of human kindness, he wouldn't miss any chance to pull himself out of the mud. Sure enough, I hadn't gone far when his voice came from behind me. I agree. I stopped, turned back, and smiled at him. Tomorrow, I'll take you to my family's to propose. This proposal visit, of course, was to my house, to face my unyielding mother-in-law. A hard battle still lay ahead. The next day I led Victor into the Zhou family courtyard. Victor had changed into a clean, worn military uniform, his hair was neatly combed. Though he still walked with a slight limp, his back was straight as a rod and his presence undiminished. Agatha and Lila were in the yard picking vegetables. When they saw us, the expressions on their faces were something else. Elena! You actually dared to bring some wild man home. Lila screamed, leaping up. Agatha dropped the vegetables in her hand, put her hands on her hips, and glared at Victor with slitted eyes. I wondered who it was, turns out it's you, you cripple. She looked Victor up and down, full of contempt. Elena, are your eyes blind? You could have chosen a perfectly fine person, and instead you go for someone disabled? Her words were meant both to humiliate Victor and to jab at me, assuming I couldn't find anyone and would have to scramble for scraps. Victor's face darkened instantly, his fists clenched until they creaked. I held his hand back, stepped forward, and stood between him and her. Mom, his name is Victor. He's the son-in-law I picked for you. I chose him precisely because he served in the military, his leg was wounded while defending the country. Like Ethan, he's a hero. Someone like that is absolutely trustworthy in character. Leaving the Zhou family's line to him puts my mind at ease, and Ethan's spirit can rest in peace. My words left Agatha utterly speechless. She couldn't say the hero was bad, could she? Wouldn't that be slapping her own son Ethan in the face? You're talking nonsense. He's just a cripple. He can't do heavy work. How will he provide for the family in the future? Agatha struggled for a moment before finding something to attack. Who said he'd have to provide for the family? I laughed. I have money. I took the envelope with the cash out of my pocket and waved it in front of her. Ethan's compensation is enough for us to live on. Not only that, I'm going to use this money to get Victor's leg treated. You. Agatha's eyes were red as she stared hard at the envelope, as if she might leap forward to snatch it. Elena, are you crazy? That money belongs to Ethan. How can you spend it on an outsider? He's not an outsider. From today on, he's my man, the Zhou family's live-in son-in-law. I took Victor by the hand and went straight into my little room, locking them out. Elena! Come out here. You squanderer! Agatha's shouts and the pounding on the door were relentless. Victor stood in the center of the room, looking at me with a complicated expression. You didn't have to do this. Do what? I asked without looking up, tidying the room as I spoke. For me, making such a scene with them, he said quietly. And saying you'd use your money to pay for my leg treatment. That's not my money, it's Ethan's compensation, I corrected him. And I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for myself. I need a powerful ally, someone who can keep them in line. You are the best candidate. I handed him a bundle. These are a few new clothes I had made for you. Put them on first. We'll register tomorrow. I hadn't prepared any bridal gifts. Instead, from the condolence money I took 100 yuan and, in the name of a dowry, shoved it to him. Keep this money as a deposit for our partnership. From now on I'll be responsible for your leg injury, your living expenses. All you need to do is stand by me when I need you. This gesture, in this era, was nothing short of earth-shattering. Victor gripped the stack of bills, his hand trembling slightly, and stared at me for a long, long time. Elena, aren't you afraid I'm a fraud? That I'll take your money and run once my leg is healed? I smiled. I'm betting you're not. In the previous life, after he achieved success and fame, he did not abandon the elderly Chinese healer who cured his leg. Instead he brought their family to live with him and provided for them until the end. A person who knows how to be grateful, how bad could their character really be? Our wedding was kept extremely simple, no banquet, no guests, we just went to the commune to get a certificate. The day we registered, Agatha showed up with Lila, blocking the commune entrance, crying and screaming, pointing at me and calling me a licentious widow. Her insults were vicious and ugly. Victor said nothing, he silently shielded me behind him, using his tall frame to block out all those venomous curses. In that moment, looking at his resolute profile, a strange feeling suddenly stirred in my chest. This transaction, perhaps, was not merely a transaction. The wedding night. A dim kerosene lamp in the room, its flickering flame casting the large red double happiness character on the wall. The atmosphere was so awkward you could wring water from it. The room was small, with only one bed. I made a pallet for him on the floor. You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor, he said in a hoarse voice, about to take the quilt down. Your legs can't get cold. I stopped him. I'll sleep on the floor. The two of us argued without resolution. In the end I sighed, fine, we'll share the bed. Keep some distance in the middle, don't touch each other. The bed was an old wooden plank bed, very narrow. When two people lay down it was almost shoulder to shoulder. I could clearly smell the faint scent of soap on him, and his steady breathing. In the darkness, it felt a little awkward. Elena. He spoke suddenly. Thank you. He said it softly, yet with gravity. I was silent for a while. No need to thank me, we're partners. After that, there was a long silence again, the whole night passed without words. Married life was quieter than I had imagined. Agatha and the others made a fuss for a few days, found I was stubborn, and with Victor standing over me like a guardian at the door, they had to quiet down for the time being. But their eyes were still like venomous snakes, watching us every moment. I began to treat Victor's leg. I had someone buy large quantities of herbs from the county Chinese pharmacy, boiled medicine every day, applied hot compresses and massaged him. These methods were all things I had learned from that old herbal doctor in my previous life. The process was painful. The scalding medicine packs pressed against his wounds made the veins stand out with pain, yet he swallowed his howls and held them down, not making a sound. When I pressed his acupoints, the muscles under my hands were as hard as stone. If it hurts, just say so. He shook his head and looked at me, some emotion I couldn't read in his eyes. This little pain, compared to the battlefield, is nothing. Besides treating his leg, I kept finding ways to cook him delicious food, braised pork, steamed white buns, things that the villagers considered extravagant became everyday fare in our home. Victor's body healed at a visibly fast pace, his complexion grew ruddy, and he put on some weight. That day I had been simmering a pot of chicken soup and was just about to bring it to him when Agatha and Lila barged in, following the aroma. Bravo, Elena. Our whole family is gnawing on coarse corn buns, and you're holed up at home eating like a queen. Lila pointed at my nose and cursed. Agatha was more direct, she reached for the pot in my hands. This was bought with our Zhou family money. Give it to me. I stepped aside to avoid it, the chicken soup spilled everywhere, and the scalding broth splashed onto the instep of my foot, instantly reddening a patch of skin. What are you doing? Victor heard the commotion and came out from the inner room. Seeing the scene, his face went cold as ice in an instant. He strode over to stand in front of Agatha, his tall figure carried an overwhelming sense of pressure. Get out. His voice was not loud, but it carried the force of 1,000 weights. Agatha took a step back, intimidated by his presence, but she quickly straightened her spine. "You freeloading cripple. What right do you have to boss me around? This is my son's home. Now, I make the decisions here," Victor said coldly. "Elena is my wife. Whoever bullies her is picking a fight with me, Victor." Though he limped, the authority of a soldier remained, making Agatha's insides churn with unease. You just wait." She spat a vicious line, grabbed Lila, and slunk away. I looked at the mess on the floor, then at the blisters forming on my feet, and felt a sudden surge of grievance. Victor crouched down and carefully inspected my injuries. When his fingers touched my skin, the warm sensation made my whole body stiffen. "Does it hurt?" He looked up at me, his eyes full of guilt and concern. "It's my fault for being useless, not being able to protect you." I shook my head, and suddenly felt that this deal seemed to be getting more and more worthwhile. The burn on my foot wasn't serious, but Victor was unbearably anxious. He rummaged through the drawers, found some burn ointment, and carefully applied it to me. That night he insisted on sleeping on the floor, saying he was afraid of touching my wound. I couldn't argue with him, so I let him. In the middle of the night I was awakened by a stifled groan. It was Victor. By the moonlight I saw him curled up on the floor, trembling all over. His leg wound had flared up again. I hurried out of bed and lit the kerosene lamp. "What's wrong? Is your leg hurting again?" He gritted his teeth, sweat beading cold on his forehead, unable to speak a single word. I knew the medicine was taking effect, activating the blood, dispersing the stasis, unblocking the clogged meridians, a process no less agonizing than having flesh scraped from bone. I helped him lie back on the bed, brought hot water, and wiped his sweat with a towel. "Hang on, it will pass soon." He seized my hand with a grip so strong it felt like he could crush my bones. I bit back the pain and didn't pull away. I stayed with him like that until dawn, and only then, utterly spent, did he fall asleep. Looking at his pale, exhausted sleeping face, I felt a jumble of emotions. I began to doubt whether everything I had done was truly worth it. At dawn, Victor woke up. Seeing the bruise under my eye, he said guiltily, "I'm sorry for making you worry again." He struggled to get out of bed. "I'll go make breakfast." "Stay right where you are," I snapped. "From today on, you don't have to do anything. Healing your injuries is the top priority." He looked at me and suddenly laughed. "Elena, you really look like my wife right now." My face flushed in an instant. What nonsense. "We're business partners." I said that, but my heart felt as if it had been bumped by something, a fond stumbling and fluttering within. In the days that followed, I watched him even more closely, and the villagers' gazes toward me grew stranger and stranger. "Elena has truly lost her mind, doting on a cripple like he's a treasure," they said. "I think she's truly fallen for that Victor. A widow who brings bad luck, a lame cripple, they suit each other well." I let those idle words wash over me. That day the postman brought a letter addressed to Victor. The envelope bore the military insignia. When Victor saw the letter his hand visibly trembled. He opened it and read quickly, but his face grew increasingly grave. "What is it?" I asked. He handed me the letter. It was from his former commanding officer, saying that due to changes in military policy, he could be assigned to the logistics department of the military region to take a civilian post. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. My chest tightened. That meant he would be leaving. Would our collaboration have to end as well? "Are you planning to go?" I asked with some difficulty. He looked at me without answering immediately. The room was silent. I could hear my own heartbeat, thump, thump, pounding and making me uneasy. If he left, what would I do? Agatha and the others would bully me even worse. I suddenly realized that, before I knew it, I had already begun to depend on him. "I'm not going." I froze. "Why?" "This is such a great opportunity. My leg hasn't healed. Going would just be a burden to the unit." But your leg is already much better. You can recover slowly. I cried. Elena. He cut me off, his gaze burning into me. I'm leaving. What will you do? His question stopped me. Right, he's leaving, what will I do? I had never thought about it, or rather, I had deliberately avoided the question. I kept telling myself that what I had with him was only a transaction, when the deal ended, we'd part ways. But now, I found I couldn't bear to let him go. I can take care of myself, I said, trying to sound tough. Really? He smiled, a trace of bitterness in it. You can't even carry a bowl of soup without dropping it, and you expect to take care of yourself? He was referring to the time Agatha made a scene and I got burned. My face flushed again. That was an accident. I don't want an accident like this to happen again. He looked at me steadily. I won't leave until you're completely safe. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to say, so I lowered my head and pretended to sort the herbs. The air was filled with an indescribable, ambiguous feeling. From that day on, our relationship shifted in subtle ways. We stopped stressing the partnership and, like an ordinary married couple, went on living quiet, warm days. His leg, under my careful care, improved day by day, from the limping that began it, to later being able to walk normally. He began helping with the chores at home, chopping wood, carrying water, and even cleared a small patch of wasteland to plant vegetables. The way the villagers looked at him shifted from contempt to surprise, then to admiration. A cripple, by sheer will, had forced himself back to his feet. Agatha and the others' looks toward us also changed, from schadenfreude to jealousy and malice. That day, I came back from outside and saw from afar a crowd gathered at our door. Agatha and Lila were talking to a stranger in a suit with gold-rimmed glasses. My heart skipped a beat, a bad premonition washed over me. Only when I got closer did I make out what they were saying. Comrade, you have to stand up for us. That Victor is a fraud. He cheated us out of the Zhou family's compensation and even stole my son's wife. The man who looked like a cadre frowned, his face grave. Is that true? The rights of martyrs' families must be protected. He saw me and immediately came over. You must be Comrade Elena, right? I nodded. We received a report saying you were forced into a second marriage and that your pension has been embezzled. Don't worry, the organization will stand up for you. I looked past him and, seeing the triumphant smiles on Agatha and her daughter's faces, understood in an instant. They had called in reinforcements, planning to use the organization's power to wrest me away from Victor and seize the pension back. Victor heard the noise and came out of the room. When he saw the man, his face changed. Instructor? The man was also stunned. Victor? What are you doing here? Oh. So this cadre-looking man was Marcus, Victor's former instructor in the military. This time I came to the county on business and dropped by to see Victor. As it turned out, I ran into Agatha and the others at the village entrance and was mistaken for a high-ranking official. Now things had become interesting. Cadre, this is my wife, Elena. Victor introduced me to Marcus, his tone natural and steady. Wife. Marcus was so stunned his eyes nearly popped out. He looked at me, then at Victor, then at the bewildered Agatha and her daughter beside him, his mind unable to catch up. Agatha grew anxious. Comrade. Don't listen to his nonsense. This woman is my daughter-in-law. He's the thief who stole my daughter-in-law. Marcus frowned. Madam, first make the situation clear. Victor is a soldier I brought up. I trust his character. So I recounted the whole story, every detail, from start to finish. From Ethan's death, to receiving the compensation, to Agatha forcing me for money, my helpless announcement to take a son-in-law, then my choice of Victor, and finally the various humiliations Agatha and the others put me through after the marriage. I spoke neither meekly nor arrogantly, my points clear and orderly. The more Marcus listened, the darker his expression grew. When he heard Agatha suggest marrying me off to Ricky, he slammed the table. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. He glared at Agatha, his eyes blazing with anger. The honor and rights of a martyr's family are protected by the law of the land. What you are doing is illegal. You are smearing the name of our heroes. Agatha flinched at his shout, her arrogance instantly diminished by half. I was only trying to do what's best for the Zhou family. For the Zhou family's sake? Marcus sneered. I think you're just after that compensation money. He turned to me, his tone much gentler. Comrade Elena, you've been wronged. Choosing to be with Victor is your choice. You are a lawful couple and protected by the law. If anyone dares to bother you again, come straight to my office. Marcus's words were equivalent to stamping our relationship with Victor with official approval. Agatha and Lila's faces drained to the color of congealed liver, caught stealing and losing everything. The villagers gathered around to gawk and began pointing at them. So disgraceful, even trying to pilfer from a martyr's money. Exactly. Elena found someone as good as Victor, and they still aren't satisfied. Agatha and her daughter fled in panic amid everyone's jeers. That evening, Marcus stayed for dinner. Seeing that Victor could already walk properly again, he was so moved that tears brimmed in his eyes. Victor, I knew it, you're a real man, you won't be knocked down that easily. He brought up Victor returning to the unit again, this time you can't refuse. The army needs someone like you. Victor was silent and looked at me. I smiled at him. Go. I'll go with you. This time, he didn't refuse, he simply squeezed my hand tightly. We decided to leave this place, to go to the city where the military district is located and start a new life. The day before we left, I went to Ethan's ancestral tomb and, in front of the grave, burned that marriage certificate. Ethan, from today on, we're even. Your parents, your siblings, you, go back and fulfill your duties. I don't know if he can hear my words. But I know that my rebirth only truly begins at this moment. Life in the military compound was completely different from the countryside. Victor and I were assigned to a small single room. Though humble, it was clean and tidy. Victor reported to the logistics department and took up clerical work. He was busy every day, but I could see that he was happy, he seemed to glow with a new light. I wasn't idle either. Using the remaining condolence money, I leased a small storefront near the military compound and opened a breakfast shop. The steamed buns, youtiao, and soy milk I made tasted good and were affordably priced, and they quickly became popular with the soldiers and their families. Life was busy, but full. My relationship with Victor also slowly warmed in the midst of this steady bustle. He would come to the shop to help as soon as he finished work, and I would bring him hot meals when he had to work late. A year later I became pregnant. Victor was as happy as a child, twirling me around several times and treating me with even more care. After 10 months of pregnancy I gave birth to a son. Holding the tiny baby, Victor's eyes were red. He named the child Noah, hoping our child would have a life of safety and joy. I watched the two of them, father and son, and my heart was filled to the brim with something called happiness. I completely forgot the Zhou family, forgot those unbearable pasts, thinking life would go on quietly like this forever. Until that day, the arrival of an unexpected guest. That day I was busy in the shop when a woman strolled in, stylishly dressed and wearing flawless makeup. She scanned my little shop from top to bottom, her eyes full of disdain. You must be Elena, she said, her tone haughty. I'm Vivian. Ethan's lover. My heart dropped sharply. Vivian. Ethan's first love. How did she find this place? What do you want with me? I forced myself to stay calm. She took a wad of bills from her bag and slapped them on the table. Here's 500. Take the money and leave Victor. I froze. What do you mean? Ethan will be back soon, she said with a mocking laugh. He's already a battalion-level officer now, with a bright future ahead. He doesn't want to have an ex-wife who's deceased on his record, and he certainly doesn't want anyone to know that his widow remarried one of his colleagues. I understood instantly. Ethan was coming back, not just coming back, but intending to erase all traces of my existence. And Victor had, of all things, become his colleague. This world really is small. What if I don't? I looked at her and asked coldly. No? Vivian sounded as if she'd heard the funniest thing in the world. Elena, don't be shameless when someone's trying to be kind to you. Do you think Victor really likes you? He only feels sorry for you, and he's greedy for the condolence money in your hands. Now Ethan is back, he has far more prospects than Victor, that logistics clerk. You're smart, you should know how to choose. Her words were like knives, stabbing into my heart. I looked at her face, so certain of victory, and suddenly laughed. Miss Vivian, it seems you've got one thing wrong. First, Ethan and I have long since had nothing to do with each other. His life or death, his future, none of it concerns me. Second, Victor and I are legally married. Our marriage is protected by law. Third. I paused, looked at her, and enunciated each word. Oh, I forgot to tell you. That logistics clerk you mentioned, Victor, just last week he was appointed deputy commander of the combat battalion. Sorry, but it seems his rank is actually a step higher than your Ethan's. Vivian's face went deathly pale in an instant. What did you say? Impossible. He's a cripple. His leg's been healed for a long time, I said calmly. Thanks to you, and to Ethan as well, I used as compensation to get my current husband treated. Vivian staggered back a step, staring at me in disbelief. She probably couldn't fathom how someone she'd always seen as a cripple could suddenly have become a promising young officer. Don't you dare try to fool me, she screamed. I'm going to find Ethan right now. Let him expose your lies. After saying that, she fled out in a panic. I watched her retreating figure and felt not a ripple in my heart. What was meant to happen would happen. A few days later, Ethan did indeed come calling. He was dressed in a crisp military uniform, 2 stripes and a star on his shoulder, more mature and composed than he had been a few years ago. He saw me, and a complicated emotion flashed in his eyes, guilt, surprise, and a barely perceptible greed. He probably noticed that my breakfast shop was doing well and that my life was stable now. Elena, he said, his voice a little dry. I ignored him and kept my head down, folding the buns. Elena, I know, it was my fault. He stepped in front of me and lowered himself. Back then I had no choice. My family was poor, Vivian's father was a military district official, and only by being with her could I become what I am today. I'm back now. I'll make it up to you. Whatever you want, I'll give you. He thought I was still that foolish woman who loved him to the point of losing herself. I stopped what I was doing, looked up, and watched him quietly. Ethan, do you think everyone should revolve around you? He froze. You could fake your own death to save your career, abandon your wife. Now that you're back and find your widow doing well, you want to use a few small favors to make me gratefully get lost so you and your first love can fly away together? On what grounds do you assume I'll do as you wish? My words were like a resounding slap, striking his face hard, his expression instantly turned extremely ugly. Elena. Don't be ungrateful. I'm a battalion commander now. Battalion commander? A cold voice, carrying the rust and bite of the training ground, crashed in. Victor, at some unknown moment, was already standing in the doorway. He had just returned from the training ground, still wearing his fatigues, his body covered in sweat and dirt, yet exuding an aura that made the hairs on one's neck stand on end. He walked in step by step, stood beside me, shielded me behind him, and looked at Ethan with a cold, cutting gaze. Ethan, if I remember correctly, you were only the deputy battalion commander, right? Since when did you get promoted to battalion commander? When Ethan saw Victor, his pupils suddenly contracted, and the color drained from his face at a speed visible to the naked eye. Victor. Company commander, he stammered, his waist bending unconsciously. He could never have dreamed that his widow's current husband would turn out to be his direct superior. I'm not your company commander. Victor corrected him. As of today, I am the operations company commander. And you, Comrade Ethan, I now have serious suspicions that you are involved in deceiving the organization and forging a proof of sacrifice. Please come with me to the disciplinary inspection committee and explain everything. Ethan was completely broken. Like a lump of rotten mud, he was led away by 2 military police. He never dreamed that his debut as the center would lead him straight to the pyre. Until the end, he couldn't understand why the rural wife he had discarded like trash became the wife of his immediate superior, why the cripple in his eyes became someone he could only look up to. His life, at the moment he thought he had most reason to be proud, collapsed with a thunderous crash. The investigation results came out quickly. Ethan was found guilty of forging a death certificate and deceiving the organization. He was discharged from the military and sent to a court-martial. Vivian's father, that military district official, cut ties with Ethan immediately to protect himself. Vivian, without hesitation, abandoned him as well, a dog with no home. A carefully planned escape ended up a ludicrous farce. Ethan's family in the village had a hard time too. When the truth of Ethan's faked death reached the village, the Zhou family became the village's joke and shame. Agatha and Lila were reduced to pariahs, hissed at by everyone. They say Agatha couldn't handle the shock and went mad. She sits at the village gate all day, telling anyone who will listen that her son is a hero and was framed. And none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I lived my little life with my son Noah and Victor. My breakfast shop grew more and more successful, and Victor rose through the ranks in the military on his own merits. A few years later, he became the youngest regiment commander in the district. We moved into the spacious, bright housing for regiment-level officers' families, and Noah reached school age, smart and sensible. Sometimes, when I look at the smiling version of myself in the mirror, I feel a little dazed. If I hadn't been reborn, my life would probably have been one of bearing Ethan's martyr mantle, being worn down by his family until I died, and finally turning to a handful of dust, neglected and forgotten. It was Victor who pulled me out of that mire. It was he who gave me a home, who gave me a new life. That night, Victor came back from outside and handed me a small red booklet. It was the property deed, and my name was written on it. This is what I bought with the allowances I've saved over the years. I wrote your name on it. He scratched his head sheepishly. It's not much, but at least in this city, we finally have a real home that belongs to us. I looked at him, my eyes a little wet. Are you stupid or what? Why would you write my name? You're mine, my medal of merit, all of it is yours. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on the top of my head, his voice low and gentle. Elena, thank you. Thank you for choosing me back then. I leaned against his warm chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, and felt a profound calm. I lifted my head and pressed a gentle kiss to his lips. No, it's I who should thank you. Thank you for letting me know that being loved by someone feels like this. Thank you for giving my life another possibility. Ethan, thank you for the favor you did back then. Everything you once schemed and longed for is now within my easy reach. And what I gained was a happiness you will never, ever be able to reach.